Hello and welcome to another one of these streams. I don't really have too many programming notes. Ooh, I have one. I have a video I'm actually going to be putting up this afternoon. So I'm going to do that little premiere thing probably in a couple of hours. I haven't uploaded it into YouTube yet, so I'll probably do that as soon as the stream is over, and I will probably set it to drop officially, as the cool kids say, at maybe 3 p.m. Eastern. So check that one out. Oh, it should be a barrel of laughs. With that out of the way, let's just get to it, shall we? I am on my RPG roundup curated, what do they call it? Multi Reddit. Hey, Ian, glad you could hang out. I'll give it a refresh just to see anything new and fancy. Not skilled at map making. I'll give you an upvote. DDoS attacks. Here's one that might be interesting. It's a martial archetype. Implement of violence. Become an unstoppable storm of weaponry on the battlefield, with this subclass inspired by the Madness Combat web animation. I have no idea what the Madness Combat web animation is. Let's see. It looks like this is for, I gotta keep remembering to check which subreddit it is. This is for 5th edition. I know I got 5th edition folks in here, so we'll read through it, see what's what. I'm always, the kind of subclass or class thing in 5th edition, never know what to really make of them in terms of, I usually just tend to be a simple man. I'm a simple man, and I really feel like you get a general set of the subclasses. I guess that, you sort of have, what is it, kind of part martial, part caster, I suppose, part martial, part something else. I don't know, whatever. And then I think there's a lot of kind of re-spinning the wheel or remaking the wheel with just kind of a little tweak to this or that. But we'll see. We'll see what this one brings to the patty, so to speak. Implement of violence. Some fighters take up their arms for justice, some for coin, and some to protect their loved ones. An implement of violence doesn't need a reason. They just need a blade in their hand and a canvas to paint on. To such a fighter, violence is not a means to an end. Rather, it is at once the end and the means. Implement of violence in combat is a chaotic storm of weapons, sheathing one blade to draw another, just as a painter switches between brushes and pigments. There is no pattern to their movements, no hidden technique to their relentless attacks. There's only madness. All right, so I guess the thing here to note, and I'm not familiar with the cartoon or web animation, whatever it's called. They're just running around and blades are coming out. That's the kind of thing that I think you can is kind of either is going to be just be flavor or something that could potentially be abused. We'll see. I'm talking about just swapping weapons, kind of just presumably it seems like the concept that, at nothing, basically, just as a freebie, you can just switch weapons. We'll see. We'll see what it actually means. So bonus proficiency is at 3rd level. You get an implement of violence feature. It is an implement of violence feature at 3rd level. You gain proficiency in the acrobatics and athletic skills. If you're already proficient, you gain proficiency in another skill of your choice. Additionally, you gain proficiency with improvised weapons, and you can treat them as weapons with a D6 damage die and the versatile property. Okay. Well, and look, don't listen to me for balancing things. And again, I haven't seen the thing. I don't know. I'm not sure I need. It seems like a lot for improvised weapons, but someone can correct me if I'm being overly. I think I tend to. I tend to be kind of frugal with my features. I don't know. Storm of Violence. This is another 3rd level feature. You could freely draw and stow your weapons any number of times on your turn. Additionally, when you hit a creature with an attack roll that uses strength or dexterity, your next attack roll against that creature has advantage if it uses the other ability. If you hit on an attack that has advantage in this way and the target is large or smaller, you can impose an effect on depending on which ability the attack used. Strength, the target is pushed 5 feet away from you. Dex, the target's speed is reduced by 10 feet until the start of your next turn. So I guess the thing is here. So here's that part, right? You can freely stow and draw weapons any number of times on your turn. That's probably a bit much. And in fact, I would probably hone that in something. So then that's part of it. The other part is when you hit a creature, when the attack roll uses strength or dexterity. I don't know in terms of this fighter class, are there any attacks that aren't using your strength or dex? Are there any attacks at all that don't use that? I mean, maybe if you're making an attack roll for a spell, I guess you wouldn't, but I feel like if you're not using magic, just about everything that's attack roll related is going to use your strength or dex. But the kicker is you can swap. So let's see what an example might be. I'm not sure what melee weapons use dex. I guess a light one like a rapier that can use dex, or maybe you have a feat that allows you something to use dex. But anyway, you have a dex weapon, you thwack with that and immediately switch to your strength weapon and then thwack with that. And then you can, depending on which one is the second one. So if you went from dex to strength, you can push the target back. If you go from strength to dex, you can reduce their speed. This is all good. It seems like it is definitely setting up this thing where you're going to have, I don't know, X amount of weapons. I don't really know why you'd need more than 2 to do this, because we just need 1 strength with 1 dex weapon, and then you're just, on your turn, you're just flip-flopping back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. So I think, again, not knowing the thing, okay, well, on the one thing, yeah, it's kind of cool. Saying you can freely draw and stow your weapons an unlimited times during your turn, no, I wouldn't do that. I would have this be essentially Storm of Violence. You hit, you can swap. Hit, you could swap. Hit, you could swap. Hit them, you could swap, kind of thing. If you want to. And then I don't think so. Getting the advantage part. So it seems like there's, I guess the other part of it is kind of a 2-round combo. Because it doesn't seem like they're giving you 2 attacks. When you hit a creature with an attack roll, your next attack roll has advantage. So you hit him with 1, your next one gets advantage. And then if you had advantage and they're not a stupidly huge creature, you can use that. So I kind of like the idea that you hit, you swing weapons, and then your next one has advantage. I don't know. The advantage I could probably give or take. I'm not sure what the advantage is coming from. Seems a little easy to get advantage, and then I don't know. I just I don't want. This is where I'm terrible at. But I think okay, so if you're a rogue something, implement of violence 3 that you can just basically get advantage just from hitting your attack. That seems like it's even easier than how rogues normally have to get advantage. I mean, granted, you have to hit, but still, I don't know. But I think the ability, the changing weapon things is okay. But I probably would just say if you hit, that's part of that is you hit, you can change weapons, or maybe hit or miss, you can change weapons, and it doesn't use up an action or reaction or whatever. That's me what I would do, and not just say an unlimited amount of times. At least it's just weapons. And you can't just be like, oh, I've got this tower shield, but then I'm whipping it away for a 2-handed sword, and I can swap back and forth as many times as I want. That would be ultra cheesy. At 7th level, you get Twitch Reflexes. Your enhanced reflexes and combat presence grant you proficiency and dex saving throws. If you already have proficiency, you can choose instead strength or intelligence. Additionally, your jump distance is doubled, and you don't require a running start to jump your full distance. See, this is the other thing with a lot of homebrew. Not to say it's only homebrew, but I say mostly homebrew. You read the name Twitch Reflexes, and then you read the ability. Okay, so you get proficiency and dexterity saving throws, which I could see. All right, that's your Twitch reflex. Because if your dex saving throws, you're generally, can I kind of spider sense and then leap out of the way? That's it. So that part makes sense. I got that. But then the jump distance, why is it jumping double? That, I don't know. To me, it doesn't follow. I don't know. I'd rather maybe this to me. Why not get a little get an increase to your initiative or something that to me seems to more signify Twitch reflexes than you can save better and then you just get to jump super far. False advertising. No, not that, but could be more better naming. And next we have Implacable at 10th level. In combat, you move and strike with unceasing ferocity. Your walking speed increases by 10 feet. Moreover, when you hit on an attack that has advantage due to Storm of Violence, the additional effect improves if the lower of the two d20s would also hit. Strength, the target is pushed 10 feet away from you and knocked prone. Dex, until the start of your next turn, the target's speed is reduced by 20 feet and it can't take reactions. Again, it's pretty strong. Though that Dex one's pretty darn strong. They push 10 feet and prone. So granted, they'd have to use their move to get back up, and so they couldn't get back up and move. But then the other one is you reduce their speed by 20 feet, which in itself is pretty good. And then they can't take reactions. Presumably, it's just until the start of your next turn, like they said in the other one. I do like that these kind of stack with each other a little bit, but I don't know if I'd like. I feel like I'd want to tune those a bit more. And then we get Relentless Counter at 15th level. You've developed a sixth sense for threats in combat and can counter them in the blink of an eye. When you are hit by a weapon attack, you can use your reaction to make a strength or dex check. If the result meets or exceeds the attack roll, the attack misses instead, and you can immediately retaliate in a way depending on which skill you used. If you use athletics, you can attempt to grapple or shove. If you use acrobatics, you can leap. Once you successfully avoid an attack with either skill, you can't do so again using that skill until you next roll initiative. So basically once per combat. I'm not sure why they worded it until you next roll initiative. It's combat, right? It's like essentially using 4th edition. It's an encounter ability. You get it once basically per encounter. Let's see. So you're of a sixth sense. You're hit by a weapon attack. You can use your strength or dex, either athletics or acrobatics. Basically, if the result meets or exceeds the attack roll, the attack misses instead, and then you can retaliate. I don't know. I don't know. I'd have to look at what other 15th level is pretty high level. So I guess getting some extra juice on that once per encounter, basically. Though I probably would just say maybe instead of saying you can't use it again until you next roll initiative, just say, you recharges on a short rest or whatever because I think that's the way these things work, right? 4th edition had encounter powers. Now they changed it to, oh, hey, these come back with a short rest. That's, I guess, a short rest ability. And it's pretty good because you can do that twice. Or I guess once you avoid attack with either skill. Yeah, that's a little bit. Actually, no, it is twice. Because you get to use athletics once and acrobatics once. I would probably just say maybe it's just once. I don't know, twice in a combat. That's pretty good, especially if you've been maxing out and you're getting proficiency in those two skills. And then finally, do what comes natural, which is an 18th level implement of violence feature. Violence is second nature to you, akin to breathing. You gain the following benefits. Nothing can impose disadvantage on your attack rolls. Nothing can prevent you making attacks against your intended target while you aren't incapacitated, such as the Charmed Condition and the Sanctuary spell. As a reaction, when rolling initiative, you can immediately take an extra turn before any other creatures can act. Once you do this, you can't do so again until you finish a short or long rest. So they do know the lingo because they used it there. I mean, look, this is what they call it, a capstone. This is a capstone feature. But I don't tend to like these absolutes. Nothing can impose disadvantage on you. Yeah, I don't know. I know it's a capstone feature, your 18th level. Maybe it makes sense. I'm always wary of that kind of thing. And then the nothing can prevent you. I don't know what level a sanctuary spell is. Charmed, not potentially a high level. I don't know. I'd probably make some kind of save or do something and not make it. But I guess you can use it once. Right? You can use it once. No, it's just, see, it's just on. This is an always on. You can't ever get disadvantage. Nothing can stop you. Yeah, I would say that maybe once per turn, you can try to make it an extra save or something. I don't know. Something I'd want to hone those in a bit more, but I'm a stick in the mud for these kinds of things. I'm sure people will shout me down from the rafters saying no, because I'm not up on the current balancing meta discussions for 5th edition. I guess ultimately I don't really get a sense of what this thing is. I get it. It's just somebody just fights for violence sake, but I don't know that I actually get that from their Storm of Violence. I suppose you're supposed to be, because I kind of get that the image they're going for is what's his name? Bugs Bunny, the Tasmanian Devil, where they're just kind of whipping around. But the drawing and stowing their weapons actually doesn't really equate that to me. And I just feel like that's something that's just, oh man, that's just ripe to be just cheesed out. Under, and so I just look at that and I go, yeah, no, but I like the idea that you could use that ability to swap weapons and then get some kind of attack. Maybe even it's like a reaction. You can use your reaction to do something like that, right? Or, something that, okay, you're kind of a whirling dervish. Maybe even just take away that stowing and weapons thing. Though that I'm getting guess that's part of the original concept. Ovaltine Patrol says the images from the Madness Combat series of online animations. I got that part of Ovaltine Patrol. They actually mentioned that at the beginning of their post. I just have no idea what that is. I have not seen it, so I can't comment. But I don't know. So Ovaltine Patrol, you'll have to read this and then let me know if this is a good analog. It seems fine. There's things I would change, but it's nice. Look, people are posting stuff free of. Where's the upvote button? Did I give an upvote? I think I did. Just for free up here. So, and again, on my 5e, I'm way out of my depth in terms of the 5e class balancing act. So, Ramen the Gemini says, just a suggestion, maybe make it so that the bonus proficiencies feature also gives the ability to use dex for improvised weapon attacks, so that strength versus dex attacks have more cohesion. And then no middle name likes that. And then Mr. Hans says, oh, okay, so it promotes a fighting style where you would attack with dex, then strength, then dex, then strength, then dex. So you would have your effects and advantage all the time, but would that make possible for players to always have advantage on the attack? I think that it kind of promotes more of a combat focused character, right? It would fit really nice. It would fit really nice with some concepts where you would dump stuff like Int and Wiz, awesome concept, and then he posts it. So yeah, it's fine. It's fine. Good job. I probably my issue is mostly that I have no idea what the Madness Combat web animation is. Any Percy Jackson fans in here? No, not really. We have a new gothic action RPG called When the Moon Hangs Low, is up on Kickstarter. Great. This might be good. What are some subtle signs a city is getting ready for war? So they need advice. The thing that's kind of, I did read this when I first popped open the screen. And, well, let me read what they have to say. This is posted by Royal Hawk 345. I want to hint to my players that the ruler that they've been helping is prepping her army to march to war. What are some ways I can suggest this without stating it outright? I want to get progressively more obvious. So if they're perceptive, they'll realize it quickly, but eventually there'll be no way to miss it. Some thoughts they had so far. Blacksmiths working through the night, people complaining about food prices shortages as supplies are requisitioned, more frequent guard patrols as the military expands, street corner recruiters / enlistment poster. What other things can they add? Especially anything that might point towards the fact that this is an invasion force rather than just for defense. What they might be led to believe if they bring up what they've noticed to the ruler. I mean, all the things I think they mentioned. Blacksmiths working overtime. So some of the things I would say is I think they've got a good start or a good core. And then the next step is to think about, well, how did that work? So you have blacksmiths working throughout the night. So, okay. But then you think about, well, they're working all the night. What are they doing? Okay, they're forging. You have armor smiths. You have weaponsmiths. They're forging weapons. They're forging armor. Okay, well, they need materials to do that. They need all the things for forge needs, right? So they're going to need wood or whatever they use for burning. They're going to need metals for the steel. They're going to need the component bits. I don't even know at that time, would they just take the iron and make the steel themselves? Were they getting steel ingots and then reshaping it? I'm not sure. You could look that up, or you could just make up your own thing, but that needs to be coming from somewhere. So you'd see all kinds of shipments incoming of the materials, those raw materials that they're going to be producing into weapons and armor. And then on the flip side, they've produced stacks of armor and weapons. Where are they going? some kind of armory somewhere. Maybe they didn't have one. They have to build one up. Maybe they're going into the fort, but there would be a steady stream of these things coming in or out. And of course, there's even more knock-on effects. If you want to think even deeper and go, well, where are those materials coming from? Is it going to be something where their first act of aggression isn't going to be towards their target, but be towards the area so they can secure the resources they need for the bigger invasion? So if you imagine that, let's say this is some kingdom, and next door to the kingdom is a small principality, no big deal, but that small principality happens to be sitting on a large reserve of iron, and then and kind of has the refining to make steel, and usually they trade with everybody, and that's fine. Well, maybe they're really attacking another kingdom that's larger, but they know that they want to not only get those resources for themselves, but then they also can hopefully prevent those resources, because that principality is selling to all buyers, take that off the market to withhold it from their enemy. So it's kind of a two-prong approach. They end up taking some kind of action on that front, which could be, and it would be interesting from the role-playing perspectives, if they do attack that place and kind of word gets out, how do they spin it for their populace or the PCs or whomever might be hanging around with an open eyes and ears. I think food prices shortages is good. That's another one you might think about. Where's the food coming from? This is something that the PCs could run into even before they get to the city or town or the center where everything's happening. Could be farms and increased production or increased tithing or whatever they would tithe, not to the church, but whatever sort of demands are being put on the peasantry and the farmers. You would see that in the countryside. And again, there'd be shipments coming in and out. And of course, that stuff has to be stored somewhere. Maybe maybe temporary extended granaries that have to be built, or silos, or some kind of storage. You might build extra storage, or it might be sitting in kind of encampments somewhere if it's getting ready to be moved. So loaded onto kind of wagons, and even then you get even more. Okay, so then the knock on stuff of that. Well, if you're storing all these grains, whatever they need, that they're going to need on the road, then you've got to have barrels. So you have to have barrel makers going, which again, you needs wood, needs iron rings for the barrels, all that stuff. There's people whose jobs are to make barrels. Are they now being tasked with supplying? Where's the wood coming from? Wood for the forges, wood for the barrels, wood for all kinds of stuff. Where's all that wood coming from? They could also see that stuff. So I think ultimately we can do is we have these obvious things, and then you can look at, well, what are the things that they will need to make these obvious things happen? Like the street corner recruiter is actually one of those not so obvious things. It's that second level of, okay, we're expanding our army because we're going on the offensive. We need to recruit people. How do you recruit people? Is you need recruiters, you need posters. You might be emptying out your prisons. That's another knock-on effect. Oh gosh, we need a bigger army. So what can we do? Well, let's go get a bunch of cons, ex-cons, present cons coming to do it. Are there other, whatever criminal element we can bring in? Do you start to put pressure on folks who have allies or good relationships with you politically? How does that kind of seep out into the public, or at least into the network of information? Missives being sent back and forth, demands being made, or whatnot. Let's see what some of the folks in here have to say. Centurio Call says tents or even wooden barracks would start to go up to house all the new soldiers congregating. You've already pointed out requisitioning local goods, but many wagons would be arriving with other needed supplies. The entire tone of the populations would change. Are they excited, concerned, anxious, scared? There would be some tension. Do all factions in the city support the war? What actions are they taking? And then that's a good one. And then Giant Spider replies, one common thing related to this in real life is the general level of mischief goes up. Public drunkenness, petty theft, pranks, infidelity, and sexual impropriety, vandalism. This is because the levy of new untrained soldiers who are gathered in camps from the city and surrounding countryside are full of young men with little money and no parents, often for the first time in their lives. So wine or beer sales might go up because the levies are drinking it, for example, or somebody's cat might have been shaved by a random teenager. And then we have some more comments there. Let's see what else. And of course, wagons, horses, these are other things that will need to be accounted for. So when this is a swig of lemonade for the working man. So you can think about all these different elements that are all going to be pulled. The player should start to hopefully perceive the gravity of all this stuff coming towards the town. Oh, why are all these campments now outside? Why are all these people? Why is all the canvas being turned into tents instead of sailing ship sails? And why are there all these barrels being made? Why are all this stuff? Why are the roads being made better or being cleared? That's another thing, is you have to move your army. So you might go ahead and have people out in front getting the roads to the border all cleaned up and made nice so that your army can get there as fast as possible. Make sure that your wagons are going to be able to travel on those roads and nothing's going to break down. All that kind of stuff. So good things. Royal Hawk likes the increased wagon traffic. Salt, that's another good one. And then Alpagator says, in a D&D world, all kinds of magical supplies would be gone because the government's buying it all up. That's a good idea as well. Horses and pack animals being unavailable for purchase. Yeah, you can definitely look. Also, I think to just be a little bit more generic is, yeah, all the market prices. If you're doing anything with market prices, they would also all go up to reflect the demand, because yeah, salt, magical components. If there's magical elements to this army, that all those components can be bought out. Yeah, no one's going to have all the Fletchers are going to be too busy fletching stuff for the army. They're not going to have time for, 10 or 12 or 30 arrows or quarrels or bolts or whatever for an adventuring party. They're going to be booked. And in fact, it might, even if they're not particularly booked, they might be put under a ban. Only army business. Only army business. That was cool. That was from DM Academy. I want a new character, damn it. Okay, good. So here let's see. Oh, this is one for OSR. Yeah, sure. D12 Knight. This is posted by Wizard Thief Fighter. Oh, it's just a picture. Oh no, wait. Here we have a. Not to suggest it's not a good picture. It is a good picture, but here's the explanation. Every time the D12 Knight attacks, roll a D12 instead of D20 and consult the table below. Level and hit dice 7/life, HP 30, armor as plate. What is that? I don't understand that. 7 level 7. There is that supposed to be levels? I don't know why they did that. I guess it has 7 hit dice and has 30 hit points. I'm not sure why they did level parentheses, I don't know, life, whatever. So 30 hit points, 7 hit dice, armor as plate. So you roll a d12. On a 1, it hits for 1 damage. On a 2, it reloads. What would it be reloading? I think number 2 could maybe have a secondary thing, because if it hasn't actually, they said it shoots a target, but shoots with what, we don't know. 3, it throws a flashbang, blinding 1 creature. 4, it reloads. 5, a pentagram glows slowly around it, healing it for a d12 hit points. Why is it using life? Is there some OSR game that's using life? I just don't understand. You're just being basic. Just call it hit points or HP. Don't be clever for clever's sake. D6 cube-headed drones crawl out of its carapace. It gets lucky and rolls twice. It reloads. It shoots a target for 1d8 plus 1 damage. It shoots a target for 1d10 plus 1 damage. It shoots a target for 11 damage. It sweeps every creature next to it for d12 damage with a pentagram scythe. And the special ability is the D12 Knight ignores armor, AC, armor class, etc. It saves as a champion. Yeah. Look, it's cool. It's just like I don't know. It seems like kind of an automaton with or golem of types of doing that. I don't know. I feel like the verbiage they're using. It ignores armor, AC, armor class, like armor spelled MOUR. Also armor spelled ARMOR. Like, is that necessary? Just say AC. We're all friends here. This is not being published. You're not worrying about anybody coming to get you. And I don't even, so just be simple, not complicated. That's fine. That's fine. I don't know that I would use this. I'd like a little bit more, like, shoots with what, hits with what. This one says it has a pentagram scythe, but I don't know. Is that some of the other ones? It's weird. It only hits for 1 damage, or it hits everybody for d12, but there's no anything in between, whereas there's basically 3 different kinds of hitting damage. I don't know. I don't know if the juice is worth the squeeze, so to speak, but it's cool. Wizard Thief Fighter, you go. Let's see. These boys are packing. How do you effectively play test a game? I'm not sure. Let's see. Hoops, the Cod Sloop. Boyd Harmonica, Goodman Games licensed Dark Sun. I mean, I suppose they could. There we go. This is posted to RPG_generators. This is at the D&D Speak blog. I will post this in here in the chat, I should say. Hey, Gashrin, how are you? This is 100 travel montage events. There you can see that. This is at dndSpeak.com/2022/09//20-3/travel-montage-events/. This is where you will find it. Quick encounters that your players can run into while traveling in your fantasy world. And it looks like you can generate an encounter. That's just giving me a random. I guess it is. So our D100 entries, there's a lot. So I guess I'll just run the generator a few times. So you got 100 of these. I'll just randomly generate some. So this one is a cult of 39 individuals calling themselves the Voyagers to the Astral Portal, wearing new matching robes and footwear, have arranged themselves in a small field near the road in such a way that they each occupy one of the stations of an imaginary flying ship or spelljammer, and each carry toy versions of the devices a crewmate occupying that station would have. A ship's wheel, toy cannons, toy engine, etc. They offer punch, snacks, and other libations while they wait. Ba-dum-bum-bum. All right, so there you have that. Frederick Gork says, for fun encounters, look up Gone Fishing by Barbarian Press. I'll do that. I'll check into that. That's one encounter. Another one is you fall into the natural trap of a large carnivorous plant. Okay, that's a one. There's another one. There is roaring and thrashing from somewhere off-road. A wounded griffin or wyvern is trapped in some poacher's device. Your left wing is damaged by some sort of bear claw device connected to a chain. The chain is locked and hammered into a tree stump. Next to it lays the carcass of a goat that was probably used to lure her here. The creature is very wary and will attack any humanoid on sight if it weren't for her chain radius of 40 feet. Freeing her is not easy as she distrusts everything around her now. This is reinforced the moment someone tries to remove the chain as arrows fly from the shrubbery and the poachers return for their trophy. This turns the beast hostile again. So it's a little bit of a complex kind of trap, really, encounter. So you have the griffin or the wyvern. I don't know why they just didn't pick one or the other. Kind of reminds me of Toothless from the How to Train Your Dragon series, as it's kind of it was sort of trapped, and then you could free it and make it your friend. Probably not in this case. There's probably no friendship going on. I think it might be helpful for these if you had them in terms of what terrain or where you are, because not everything's going to work for every terrain. A stray dog begins to follow the party at a distance. With a good animal handling check, the dog will react to the party in a friendly manner. You can keep it or return it to its owner for a reward. Well, how do you do? Is there anything on the dog that would indicate that it has an owner? I guess maybe you could just assume it has a collar or something. And I'll do one more. First time the party sees their destination on the horizon, spread out before them in a fresh vista. They still have a ways to go and maybe some more challenges ahead, but the destination is finally real, you know? Yeah, I don't know. What if they get this one and like the circumstances? I don't know. You might have to re-roll a couple times to get something that's pertinent, because it's just a whole bunch of regardless. So yes, in some situations that'll work perfectly fine. But if they're in the wood and they just started and then you know that they need to go over a mountain pass to get to their destination, then no, you're not going to see it unless we would presume this is some sort of vision. That's a good one to end on. All right, so that was from dndspeak.com. Actually, I think I need to go back this way. I gave it an upvote. I think that's definitely seems to be more 5th edition focused. It just seems to me to make a lot more sense when travel, you're not really, you're doing it maybe on a point crawl sense of something that, oh, you get three travel events or one travel event, and then you roll randomly. And so this becomes your travel event between A and B, in which case you're not worrying about what hex you're in or what terrain you're in. This is just, oh, you had one encounter and this is what it is. So probably for that, it works better than something like I would want to use it, which is, once or twice a day, for example. See, Frederick Ork says, like these guys, you could fight them for nothing but XP or work them up, set up some sort of hustle. 31 to 40% goblin warg riders rest in the shade of a grove of tall ash trees. They are well armed but treasureless. Oh, I see. So yeah, that kind of situational encounters. Yeah, I mean, that's kind of what we tend to do anyway, right? By default, when you just have your kind of wandering encounter checks. Oh, there's some goblins over there, and you invent what they're doing. I've seen some which I kind of like where they will split it up into roles for basically what the creature is, what its attitude is, and then what it's doing, so that you could roll goblins, contented, resting, and then you put it together. I sort of like that style. I guess, I mean, if I always think about it, that the more generic a lot of it is, then I can match it up with anything. So, for example, I'm in the desert. It doesn't make sense to have warg riders in the shade of an ash tree. I just have to rewrite it to say they're in the shade of a palm tree or they're a little oasis or something like that. But if you just give me warg riders, contented, resting, I can figure out the rest of it, right? So I kind of like that style more, which is more than give me the pieces and I'll paint the scene, as opposed to giving me this full scene, but then for a good amount of situations, I'm gonna have to repaint the scene anyway. Does that make sense? That's just me. That is just me. Let's see. Monster of the week, Brain Beast. Oh no, thanks. Well, this might be interesting. This is posted by Secrets of Blackmore to the OD&D subreddit. Let's go check this out. This was posted. I feel that the open nature of OD&D is still the most effective format for doing RPGs. Interestingly, both Gygax and Artisan went back to running OD&D later in life. They both inferred they preferred a simplistic system for more immersive games. I was just peering at a discussion online where they mentioned how other systems have players refining the loopholes in the rules to create mega characters with massive damage potential. My reply was that OD&D has the class system which precludes players being able to max out like that. Your ability mechanically is limited by class and level, but your actions are not, because there is no universal challenge role. Having played a lot of games, I'm now full circle back to OD&D due to elements like this. Is there anything else you feel OD&D does well and is a benefit of the system and playstyle it leads to? Are there other systems you think have singular benefits such as this? All right, so this is interesting. So let's see here. So I think the main thing is, well, he says that your ability mechanically is limited by class and level, but your actions are not, because there is no universal challenge role. What I think he's saying is that in something like 5th edition, 3rd edition, anything where you might have a particular role, you might say, all right, we've got difficulty, right? We have a challenge difficulty ratings, whatever we call that. 10 is 5 or 8 is easy, or 10 is easy and 15 is moderate, 20 is difficult, 30 is impossible. And you're going to roll versus particular skills. So not that you can't, so that, well, depending on what your number is, it does maybe preclude you from doing some things versus other things. Maybe as a PC, as a player, you look at your character sheet and you're like, oh, I'm not good at acrobatics, so I can't try it, because even in easy acrobatics, I got to roll too high. Because we don't have that kind of universal element in OD&D. We don't have that kind of at all. We're not subject to that. I mean, I think it exists in a different way, maybe. So if I'm playing OD&D, at least if I'm playing it kind of the way I run games, and I have to, I want to do something acrobatical. If I'm the GM, usually my go-to thing will be, okay, roll under your decks. I'm going to look at my sheet and say, yeah, probably not going to make that roll. Let me think of something else. So there's still some kind of preclusion, or there's still some things that you always have a chance in that system still. There's never like a no. in that kind of system. If I just simply say roll under whatever it is, maybe with a penalty, maybe not, you're at least going to have always going to have that kind of 5% chance because you could roll a 1, which would be under everything. So that would probably still work. You don't have a 30. That's just impossible. So maybe that's what they mean. You are limited. You're mechanically, yeah, you are limited. You're going to be limited, say, fighters. I think in OD&D, I'm not even sure if, I don't even remember. You might not even get strength bonus to attacking. So really, it's just your level 1 fighter. Your attack at +1, level 2, +2, so on and so forth. If you're, assuming you're using their system and not chainmail. So yeah, that's also is accurate. I think there are lots of systems where you can't necessarily max things out. But yeah, I do like OD&D for its simplicity, and it does give a lot. And there's a lot of interesting bits. And I do think I like those games that kind of don't. I've talked about it mostly in terms of like specialization, right? I think a little bit of specialization is good. I think it makes you feel good. But I think systems that really allow you to go way deep into specialization, a lot of problems can come out of it, which would just be wiped away if you just only had a certain level of specialization. OD&D kind of has none. I mean, fighters just good with all weapons. You want to choose, you want to wield a longsword, you want to use a great axe, great, go for it. You can be that specialist, but you're just not, we're not going to give you, the game basically says, look, if you want to be Axeman the Axe Breaker, or Axe Breaker the Axeman, maybe is better, and just use axes all the time, that's great. That's great. But we're not rewarding you for that. That's a role-playing decision, basically. And the consequence is, if at least by the book, you not as many axes are magical as there are swords that are magical. So that might be a limiting factor to you. But other than that, go for it. But we're not giving you any other extra pluses. You're still as good with the sword as you are with the axe, even though you're calling yourself the Axeman and you just decide to use axes. Then in something like, 5th edition or 3rd edition or Pathfinder or anything else, you got all these feats and stuff which allow you to go down a path where you're amazing at axes and then potentially awful at everything else. Probably a middle ground that would work. I would like where you could be maybe a little bit less with everything else and a little bit better with axes, but not to the point where you feel like you're totally nerfed, that you're useless if you go down those paths. And granted, the games don't force you to do it, but I think when they open up those avenues, they're just begging players to take them, and players do. Frederick Gork says, cases in point. White Lies, White Box ODD for a more modern setting with spies. It's like you can run X-Files or James Bond. I'll have to check out White Lies, Frederick Gork. Frederick Gork is, I don't know, he's way more in tune to all the different, I feel like he knows every different rules, every different new rule set and hack. I still haven't even gotten to, what was it? The pedal hack or something? I don't know, or lavender hack. I haven't even gotten the lavender hack yet. I'll put White Lies on my list. Broughton says, I'm an Axeman myself. Know what I'm saying? I do, Broughton. I do. But the rules don't penalize you in OD&D for you being an Axeman, but they don't reward you either. I don't know that I would, there's so much to unpack, right? The mega characters. I probably will do a video on this because it's kind of, I've been thinking about it in terms of the mega character, which is not really, it doesn't really relate back to OD&D, which is maybe a general thing. I think we put a lot of emphasis, I know we put a lot of emphasis on, I just went through saying, hey, the systems should put in some stops, put in some checks and balances so you don't get some of these issues. And we also will put in terms of GMs, often we'll get, hey, this person is maxed out on this. You need to figure out how to get around it, or you need to figure out how to do this or that. But there's really a really easy solution to this, which is on the player side, save your big guns for when you need them and don't abuse them. And I think that doesn't get talked about nearly enough. And I know I've been thinking about creating a video about it, which is, look, people don't, you may have the atom bomb in your arsenal, but you don't start off with the atom bomb. You work on the small stuff. If you think of in a police, in a like a police movie or something like that, right? You don't, the cops, the beat cops show up, and then maybe the more cops will show up with cars, and then maybe the cops will show up and then SWAT. And then if it gets out of control, then the National Guard comes up, and then it gets out of control, maybe the army shows up. And then, if it's aliens coming from beyond the moon show up, then maybe you get, I don't know, you get tactical nukes brought into play. But I think often with players, we just assume, and it's like, hey, it's cool if you just start off with your tactical nuke, whatever that ability happens to be, and just tactical nuke every single turn. But maybe we could encourage players to be like, hey, man, it's cool that you've got this attack up to 1 billion points per round. How about you save it? Work your way up to it. Try some other stuff. Have some fun with your freedom, knowing that you've got that in your back pocket. As I think about in The Princess Bride, when the man in black is fighting Inigo Montoya, and he starts off and they're sword fighting, and the sword fight is escalating, and then you have that moment where Inigo goes, "Oh, I've been fighting with my offhand," and then a little bit later, or maybe it's the man in black says, "So have I." Right? They've been holding back so they could kind of check things out. Maybe have that attitude, hold back, and when it's getting down to it, then throw out the nuke. Then throw out your tactical nuke, and that would kind of alleviate a lot of the problems. It would give them their big moment where they blow 1 billion points of damage. Great. And then the GM wouldn't necessarily feel bad about it because they wouldn't feel like they have to counter it every single turn. And then the rest of the party can feel like that they're also contributing and not feel they're in the shadow of this person just reeling off 1 billion points of damage every turn. I don't know. Maybe it's not realistic. Maybe it is. Who's to say? Let's see. Frederick Ork says they ran a Little Brown Books game with Justin's house rules from the Alexandrian. I haven't read those, or maybe if I have, I don't recall them. I know that Daniel from Bandits Keep is working on his own kind of heartbreaker that at least started off with kind of a mix of chainmail and the white box. Well, I think it's mostly moving towards more chainmail based. I don't remember, but he played that at ShireCon. That was a lot of fun. It was definitely the D6 based rolls from chainmail and the combat really made for some tense moments when you need to get, sixes or fives and sixes, but you had to get maybe one or two. And I remember he got on a run with one of the monsters that really, thankfully, when we needed to, could not get the numbers they needed, even though they were rolling handfuls of dice at a time. Fingun Spengler says, OSR figured this out already. Sintar says, what is OSR? Don't get me started on that. And then people answer him. And then Secrets of Blackmore says, yeah, most of them play clones, which are not the same thing at all. I'm talking about original books here. And yes, asking if anything else has the feel of it down. I find a lot of not OSR in the OSR community, to be honest. Alistair49 says, I've only read OD&D clones like Delving Deeper, which is the one that sticks with me when I think about potentially doing OD&D stuff. So I'm not sure if that counts, but if it does, they generally remind me of Classic Traveler's early days when I had just enough rules for you to sketch out a setting and adventures, and it felt like it could be used to do anything. Well, at least a large variety of things. Later rule additions make choices for you, and every choice tends to make those rules more specific, less open, and more locked into a faux medieval fantasy setting with more and more of a high fantasy vibe, as do all the extra supplements and adventures. At least until 3rd edition, which is when I moved on to focus on just the other RPGs I was playing. It is only relatively recently that I've returned to quote-unquote D&D, and it seems a much stranger world of play than when I left it. I've now played some mini campaigns of 5th edition and don't mind it. The biggest selling points for it, though, are A, that I'm gaming with friends, B, I know something about this 5e thing, why some people love it and others hate it, and C, that group does swap to other systems regularly, so it isn't a forever thing. The strangest thing is that this group that I've gamed with on off for the last 40 years will play Traveler and GURPS in old school fashion, but with 5e, it is very much the adventure path style of thing. I can imagine using OD&D to run a variety of settings based off the fantasy fiction I read when I was younger. So Myths and Legends of Greece, Rome, Scandinavia, and British Isles mainly, with some of the matter of France thrown in. I can't imagine doing that with 5th edition unless I hacked it significantly or gambled on paying for someone's adaptation to a setting. Underlying mechanics imply and reflect a worldview that doesn't, to me, match with any of the fantasy that inspires me. And I've always been more interested in games inspired and informed by fantasy literature, not the D&D fantasy that has evolved over the decades. OD&D doesn't have that problem. It is hackable and tunable. I can go high fantasy if I want, but I can go gritty and low too. I probably prefer BX in some ways, though. I could probably just house rule in the things I like from other games as and when I'd find a need for them. Looking back at what I've written above, maybe I need to see if I can find some friends who are willing to give OD&D a go. Yeah, I agree. I think OD&D is super easily adaptable because it is so simple. It's just a chassis. Hey, bye, Broughton. Hopefully one day you'll be able to catch the whole stream. I hope so too. But have a great Friday. And you, Ian, I didn't forget about you. You left earlier. When you watch this on the VOD later on, hope your meeting went well. Yeah, I think OD&D has a great chassis. It's just a very simple, solid chassis. And I think the only reason why people prefer BX, those that do, to it, is really because BX just it just simplifies some of the things and just is a better set of rules for teaching. They just lay it a lot better. OD&D, I think it's much easier to read when you come back to it. And that's how I came to it. I didn't read OD&D. It wasn't my first version of the game. It came out about the year I was born, more or less. So I wasn't, it wasn't until 8-10 years later that I was first starting to get a peek into D&D. So I came back to it late, and having all the experience of playing BX, AD&D all the way through, and then coming back when I got a hold of OD&D, finally, a lot of things, because you can just, it's not so different that you can't make sense of it. That's I think that's one of the more interesting things, is even if you started with 5th edition, I think if you went back to OD&D, you might say, wow, there's lots of missing or whatever, but you could make sense of what's there because the stuff that's there, okay, armor class is descending instead of ascending, but you're still rolling D20s. You've got your saving throws. You've got your classes. You've got AC. You've got hit points. Like, there's so much of it. You go, okay, this is, I get it. I think that's what makes it so fascinating, is you want to go through and read it. And then you almost have to turn some parts of your brain off that are just backfilling it unconsciously with all the stuff, and look at it and say, okay, what if we take away? What if I didn't know all this stuff, or I'm not including anything by default? And then what has it? But it is very simple, well done. And I think to what's this person's point? Alistair 49's point, it is super easy to convert to other things. I mean, mostly because it's very rules light, but that the rules that it does give you are good and just really just kind of solid. And I've seen all kinds of stuff. I mean, a lot of games, TSR themselves hacked out of OD&D to move into other settings and things. I think that's a really excellent base for a game. Gork says that BX is easier to get noobs playing. OD&D requires an experienced GM who knows what they want. The GM must declare at the start what rules are being used and what classes are available. Well, in OD&D, you only have a couple of classes. I mean, if you're playing just by the books without Greyhawk, you just got the 3 classes. So if you're just going by the book, I don't know that you need, it's that much more complicated. I do agree that I think a GM needs to, there's less hand holding. It's really just thrown out there. And that's what I like about BX, is it really just gives you a lot more clues and of what you're supposed to do. And it's laid out to teach you everything. Whereas OD&D is basically just like, wah, here you go, grab outdoor survival, write your own campaign world. I don't even know if they even say that. Like, you're just going to do stuff. So yes, from that standpoint, experience helps. But I think the thing is with OD&D is, I would think, just be ready to I think to Frederick's point, is it's made to be very open. You only get a couple of classes, but I think in that book, this is Gygax and Arneson. I'm assuming Gygax wrote this, but who knows? They're thinking like, hey, you could play anything, just work with your GM. This is pre-corporate Gary telling you, no, only play what's in the books. This is really very open-ended in terms of what you should be able to do. So you need to have those conversations about, what are we playing in this game? And then who can we be? Can we be dragons? Sure, let's stat out a dragon. I wish they'd given more examples about that stuff, but they didn't. We just have to try to read through the lines, or hopefully someone posts to Dragon's Foot or elsewhere what things, some of the evidence or the examples of how things actually worked in terms of things like custom classes and all that jazz. Okay, so that one's good. Secrets of Blackmore, thanks for that. Let's see. Cross post, no. Adventure Hook Dump. Oh yeah, there's a VTT map for Stonehell if you need that. Is it bad to use spell scrolls to offset the lack of a magic user in the party? I think that's for 5th edition. I don't know. I'll give them an upvote. Oh yeah, I heard something about this Menhir. Let's check this out. This was posted to Dungeon Masters. Menhir Village Procedural Generator lets you create entire village, including buildings, interiors, exteriors, roads, all with a single click. More info in the comments. So we'll check out the Kickstarter. Made a ton of money. 8 days to go. I am, as you can imagine, I have no affiliation with the folks developing Menhir. I really just stumbled on it. I think somewhere I saw, I might have been looking at something elsewhere on Reddit where somebody posted, oh, this thing Menhir. It might have been Facebook. There as I posted it. So it's at kickstarter.com/projects/Nog Studio/Menhir, MENYR. And I did mean to want to check into it. I just, as things work, I didn't realize I'd be checking it out here. So here we have some videos. So this one looks like they can, so you can, whoa. You can go full third person adventure in here. Let's read the description. Do we have a description? Yeah. Okay. So this video, I like you can measure stuff. They're going so fast with this thing. I don't know. Is it generating the map or you generate Zoom? Then you can jump in and run. What are those blue things? Those some kind of checkpoints? Here we go. What is Menhir? Menhir is a storytelling engine that allows players to create worlds in seconds and play directly in the program with your friends. Great for playing tabletop role-playing games. You will be able to change the mood of your scenes in real time and follow adventure into undiscovered worlds with AAA graphics, and all for free. From generating more than 60 square miles of terrain, procedural, multi-level dungeons and villages, to changing biomes on the fly, terraforming, or changing seasons with the press of a single button, there is little Menhir can't do for you. Play with your friends with maximum immersion. Frederick Work says they just use them as Midkemia Village Book. Well, this is a little bit different. How does it work? 1, generate entire regions in a few seconds. 2, meet your friends in-game. 3, every play style is supported. You can play online with your friends or play in person with a double screen or using a tabletop, first-person, isometric, or top view. 3, all the VTT tools you need, all for free. And then we have some quotes. So biomes and generators. At release, you're going to have plains, forests, mountains, and deserts. And then generators, in terms of locations, you can be able to generate dungeons, landscapes, medieval villages, and a medieval house. Procedural landscape support, you can be able to terraform. Ooh, tunnels is a nice one because that's always been an issue for a lot of generators, is making tunnels. So you can shape the ground, you can make biome adaptation, you can procedurally create dungeons and villages. You can, so there's going to be a marketplace where you can buy and sell your any content you create for free or for a price. You're going to have some VTT tools. This is where it's going to be a sticky wicket, I think, for anybody. I would almost prefer, could you not have a plugin to work with an existing VTT? Because you're just getting all that stuff about, you say you're going to have all these tools, but either they're going to be super generic tools, in which case they're not going to really support any particular mechanics. You're going to have to bring all that yourself, or they're going to have to go through the long and arduous process of either them or somebody else programming individual games. Whereas other VTTs already have all that stuff in there. So wouldn't it be nice if they could just say, hey, can we plug in our engine or something into you, or plug in something so that we can adapt to it and we can both kind of prosper, as opposed to us kind of trying to cut each other off at the pass. Gashrin says, I wonder if it allows battles in 3D with dragons, griffins, etc., with correct measurements that are easy to take. If so, color me impressed. Well, they haven't shown any creatures yet, but I imagine that's the point. I would hope, Gashrin, that it would work for creatures. Presumably, you need to have a 3D model of the creature. And then once you place it in the space, I imagine you'd be able to do all the measurements and things. I can't imagine that you wouldn't. I would color me shocked if you couldn't, because that seems to me is the point. So they have game systems. The custom game system allows you to modify character stats, spell range, dice macros, and more to fit your RPG. Game systems can be shared with the community on the marketplace. So they're going to be really depending on, I'm guessing it sounds like, the community to come up with the actual systems for all the different games. Every game style play in person, cast your world on a screen, view, top view, orthographic view, top-down view, or if you play online, players can use any view unless you set restrictions. That's cool. So you could have someone playing it like third-person view. That's kind of neat. It's going to be fully moddable. It's going to have a character library. It's going to have time, weather, and season control. And it's going to have points of interest, asset toolbox, custom campaign lobby. And there's more. All right, so how much is it? So here are the levels. If this intrigues you, and I am intrigued, I don't know, intrigued to whether I'm going to spend money on it. So here are the levels. Raconteur. Get an exclusive character base, an exclusive dice set, and a closed beta player seat. Narrator. So there's, okay, so I don't know. So they're doing these things. I guess these are all, what's the word that they use in games for this? Not consumables, but like stuff that's costume, just appearance stuff. I forget the name of it, but basically just frippery. So you have dice sets, portrait frames, dice towers, rare ping FX, rare in-game character, barbarian plus warlock plus cleric, storyteller, everything above, some very rare stuff. Okay, and the librarian, it's even more epic. And then archivist, everything. And then, oh my gosh, the grand archivist, if you feel like spending $1,000. Oh, let's see. And then you can get some game master access, guest seats, player seats. Then you get the rewards recap. What it would be if you're average game master, what are we thinking you would need here? I guess you don't really need anything. I guess if it's really all comes down to if you want any of these just visual things, I guess. I'm not sure with the in-game characters. Is that for you? Is that for, I don't know. I would hope that they're not like, oh, you can't be a warrior. Your player character can't be a warrior if you're not that certain class. Let's see. Gashman says 60 pounds. That's storyteller. GM pass. Yeah, it's not quite clear, right? I mean, it seems like it's free, but here we say at the 59 pounds or 60 pounds level, the Game Master Kit, you want to have a real life impact on miniature development, and you want to show everyone in game that you are serious about storytelling. At this level, you have access to the full beta features, including world building, and you'll be able to host games with your players. So yeah, essentially, if you want to, who knows how long this will be in beta, but if you wanted to get in that, it would be 60 pounds. So I don't know. That's, depending if you're in the US, you make the adjust for conversion. I'm not sure what the rate is now. Something like $80, 70, 80 bucks, something like that. Maybe I'll see if there's some kind of something I can get into. Maybe I can say, hey, I'd like to see if I can get somewhere in here without shelling out 60 plus pounds. We'll see. It seems cool. It's a one-time. I mean, the thing is I think the one thing that I can appreciate about it is it's a one-time fee to do this stuff. But it seems like ultimately it's going to all be free. So I wonder what I'm curious what I mean, look, they're going to make a bunch of money off of this. The people they've already made 300,000 on their goal. They only wanted 44,000. They made 300,000 on their goal, presumably for development stuff. And then I'm curious, what's their long-term plan with this? Is it just going to be that they're going to take some piece of the marketplace, and that's going to kind of be where they're going to, what's going to fund future development, or maybe they'll have multiple other Kickstarters? Oh, sorry, Gashrin, it is euro. Yep, you're right. My bad. Euros, not pounds. Yep. You are correct, sir. Frederick Ork says 60 seems high. I don't know. I feel like if they're doing all this and it works, I don't think that's high. It's a one-time price, $60. I don't feel like that's high. I mean, it's no higher than your average game for a video game, and you could potentially use it for years and years and years. So who knows? Anyhow, that's where we'll leave it today. Menier, I'm glad I got a quick look at it. Maybe I'll see if I can see if I can finagle some access to it so I can do something better. I won't do the quick start video or the kickstart video because it's probably somebody. But I just think that we have to. I said this before. I think we need to reevaluate what we're paying for things. I think if you're paying $60 one time, that's like less than a year. 10 months of a service that you'd be paying $6 a month for, or 6 months of a service you'd be paying $10 a month for. But this is yours. It's forever. And though potentially you might not need to pay any of that, though, you just gotta wait till it comes out of beta. Gashman says it's 471 PLN, so a lot higher than your average AAA game. I guess, I don't know. I'm used to now that seemingly they gouge everything. Like I've downloaded games for my Nintendo Switch because I wanted them right away. Then once you get everything, I'm paying like $70 for the game. So I don't know. It doesn't. There's things I've gotten not much use out of that I've paid $60 for in like video games and other things. Frederick says one thing is for sure with D&D 1 game services like Roll20 will have to step up to compete. Yes, for certain. And maybe this is one thing, and this is where I was kind of thinking maybe some of these services should look to band together and help each other out, than kind of cutting each other off at the knees with one D&D, whatever their one D&D service is on the horizon. I mean, given Wizards' past forays with technology, I'm gonna definitely believe it when I see it. But yeah, I mean that's coming, right? The 800-pound gorilla, the King Kong, is slowly moving through the jungle towards the massive log wall that's been set up, and you don't know when it's going to get there, but it's going to get there. So yeah, what are all these companies going to do to survive? Particularly when a lot of folks use D&D Beyond already. Even I see a lot of people playing 5e use D&D Beyond for character sheets and then Roll20 for something else. And if D&D Beyond is basically just folds seamlessly into this new service and they don't need the Roll20 part or the Fantasy Grounds or whatever, then, look out. So we'll see. All right, folks, look out for another video from me later this afternoon. Other than that, game on, everybody, and I'll talk to you later.